Welcome back to Cloud 2K, and this is the Cloud Report. So in today's Cloud Report, you guys saw the title. We're talking about the Detroit Pistons and why all of a sudden they're a good team. This is a team coming off a season last year where they lost 28 games in a row, a NBA record for losing the most games in a row ever. Like they were really bad. They had so many injuries. It just looked really bad for Detroit because they've been in a rebuild. For a long time now, trying to figure out their direction. They drafted Cade Cunningham first overall a few years ago, and you're like, okay, hopefully Cade Cunningham is the step forward for this organization. What are they trying to do with Cade Cunningham? And for the first couple of seasons, it seemed like not that Cade Cunningham was bad, because I think everybody knows Cade Cunningham's not a bad player, but it was like, okay, this isn't really turning out the way we want to. We keep losing games, but lo and behold, it wasn't Cade Cunningham. It was the surrounding pieces around him, and now that they've, for at least the most part, figured that out, this team is looking really good. This team is now the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference, and they played tonight as I'm recording this. They play the Hawks today, who are 26 and 30. They're ahead of the Hawks in the standings right now, but they're the 6th seed. They are 1.5 games behind the Bucks for the 5 seed. Now the Bucks, they have Giannis, they have Damian Lillard. I feel like they'll probably hold that, but the Pistons avoiding the play-ins would actually be sick, because you look behind them, the Orlando Magic. They got a lot going on. I don't know if they're jumping that standing. The Miami Heat, no, they just traded Jimmy Butler. The Hawks, no. Bulls, no. Nets, 76ers, they all just kind of suck. So I think the Pistons are really kind of locked in at the 6th seed. Again, maybe they fight the Pacers and the Bucks. They're within 2 games of each one of the teams between 4 through 6. But I feel pretty confident that the Pistons are going to avoid the play-in as long as something crazy happens to them. And again, a lot of it comes back to Cade Cunningham. He objectively has taken a big step this season. He's been really good this season. A first-time All-Star, by the way. But on this season, he is averaging 25.5 points, 6 rebounds, 9.5 assists, a steal a game. This guy's really good. He's been one of the best guards in the entire NBA this season. I know a lot of people were surprised he wasn't a starter. It kind of made sense. I'm just happy he got an All-Star now because Detroit needs it. He deserved it. He's been so good leading the offense. And again, you get spacing around him. It's a big thing because he is shooting 35% from 3 on 6 threes a game. He has helped space the floor, but you now have people around him that allows him to get to the basket, to get to the mid-range, do the drives and kicks. It all starts around Cade Cunningham, and the fact that for the first couple years of the career, he was stuck. He would drive into 3 people in the mid-range area. He would drive into 2-3 people in the mid-range. He really had nobody to kick it out to. It was just really bad. Now they have spacing, and one of the biggest all-season acquisitions for them has been Malik Beasley, who's having, I'd argue, a career year. 16 points on 42% from 3 on 9.5 attempts a game. His most attempts per game ever in his career, and he's shooting 42%. Hell, even at the trade deadline, there was real talks that potentially Malik Beasley could get moved, but he said no. He went to the office and said, no, please don't trade me. I like what's going on here in Detroit. I want to be a part of this. And he's been huge, especially since the injury of Jaden Ivey. He's really stepped in and been phenomenal. He's been the perfect guard next to Cade Cunningham, just because he demands so much attention at the three-point line that Cade Cunningham's able to get one-on-one drives to the basket. Another off-season acquisition, which I think a lot of the time, at the time, people weren't super high on it because of, obviously, he came off his years in Philadelphia where he wasn't great. He had a stinker in the playoffs the last game of his career there. Tobias Harris, having also not a career year, definitely, because he's definitely been on teams where he's more of the 1-2 option. So, but still, 13.5 points, 6 rebounds, 33% from 3 on almost 4 threes a game. 4 attempts a game from Tobias Harris is, early, mid, more of the, early Philadelphia days he was taking some more, but still, 33% from 3. It's a little bit below league average, but at least respectable enough that you can't just leave him out there. And again, that's one of the biggest things is just making sure defenses respect the people around him. Even Jalen Duren, a guy that has been really kind of wishy-washy the first couple years of his career, because it's he could be really good one game, not that great next game. 11 points, 10 rebounds, 2 assists, about over a block a game. He's shooting 69% from the 2-point range. Again, there's still games where you look at Jalen Duren and defensively, it's oh, there's still a lot of room to grow. There's still a lot to do. But at the same time, he also has games where he'll have 20 rebounds. If they can get a consistent version of Jalen Duren that's not 2020. 2020 is not going to happen every game. But at least a better defensive rebounding version of Jalen Duren, the sky's the limit. Obviously, they have Isaiah Stewart, who, is more known at this point in time for kind of crashing out than he is for basketball. But he's also been a good player this season. I think a lot of people have been overlooking the way they kind of moved him on from that stretch forward, and they're like, okay, you're running back up 5. He can still shoot the ball, but I think it's been absolutely phenomenal for him. Jaden Ivey, a guy that I didn't even talk about yet because he's been injured. He's out for the rest of the season, so shout out Jaden Ivey. But he was having a much better season. 17.5 points a game, 4 rebounds, 4 assists on about 41% from 3 on 5 attempts a game. He's a guy that the first couple years of his career, it's like, okay, what is his fit? Like, what is he? Is he like a Jalen Green archetype where he's just going to put up a lot of shots? Is going to be an inefficient scorer? Because, I mean, even look at his first 2 years. He shot 33% from 3, 34% from 3, 48% from the floor, 45% from the floor. Now, the three-point numbers went from 33 to 40. That's the biggest jump. The numbers from the floor are still 48 to 49. Like, he still has room to grow. But this dude is 22 years old, still on his rookie contract. We're going to see what type of season he has next year because, you know, coming back from this injury is always going to be a big deal. And honestly, I'm praying for him because I think this Detroit Pistons team can be super fun if they get another volume scorer next to Cade Cunningham. Another guy I want to talk about is a young wing, Asar Thompson. Now, I know everybody is talking about Amen Thompson, his brother on the Rockets, because he's just objectively been a better player so far to start their career, but even he's been kind of struggling recently. Asar Thompson, man, he missed the back half of his rookie season with blood clots, I believe. Then you jump into this season. He's averaging 9 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal and a half a game. He's shooting, I mean, doesn't really shoot the 3 ball well. He's shooting 22% on about 1 a game. He's definitely not the floor spacer that you're looking, but he's a rangy wing defender. Between him, you obviously have Ron Holland, who they drafted this year. You're hoping you get it from Isaiah Stewart, Jalen Duren, and Cade Cunningham's no slouch on defense either. I think Asar Thompson's a very good energy guy. But again, they have Isaiah Stewart, who, again, at times can kind of let his anger and emotions get out of control. But Asar Thompson, I think they could be somewhat of a dynamic duo. Now, I don't think they're going to be like the Amen Thompson, Tari Eason combo over there in Houston. But I don't want to constantly compare him to his brother, but I think a wing big defensive kind of tandem that Isaiah Stewart and Asar Thompson could be off the bench, I think could be really nasty for this Detroit team. Because, I mean, you look at the last time this Detroit team was really good and they won the finals was 2004. They had Ben Wallace, Rasheed. Like, they had all these guys that are really good defenders, and they're known for being a top defense in the NBA. Now, I don't know if these guys have the pieces right now to be a top defense in the NBA. Actually, matter of fact, let me go ahead and look the Pistons team defense, because I want to see where they line up, because it's definitely got to be top 10, right? It's got to be top 10. I should have pulled this up for him, but I had player stats up and stuff like that before, you know what I'm saying? Also, I got a new microphone. I don't know if it sounds any differently, but it's got the arm here, so I got to, like, you know what I mean, the type. You guys don't care. You guys do not care. Defensive rating. Right now, the Pistons are, if I can find them, 12th in total defense. Okay. And let's look at January. Let's look at January defensive rating. The Pistons are number 4 in the month of January. They went 10-6. Now they've had a few games into January or February now before the All-Star break. Let's look and see. Their defensive rating in the month of February was 6th, 6-2. These guys are been a top 10 defense since the start of the calendar year, so I think that can translate. They're 12th overall. I think they maybe could sneak into the top 10, because how far away from the top 10 were they? They are, like I said, 12th at 112.4. The Bucks 112.1, and then 112.1 for the Miami Heat. So they're, I mean, 0.5 away from being a top 10 defense. They can do that. I think they could do that, and I think this is something this team needs to build upon, because their offense is 15th, which isn't much worse than their defense, but I think a lot of the thing is they don't have a lot of off-ball creators or even on-ball creators outside of a Cade Cunningham. Now, they ended up getting Dennis Schroeder at the deadline, which is a fine pickup if you can get the version of him in Brooklyn, not the version of him who's in Golden State. I was hoping they would get more of a Lonzo Ball type of player to be a backup creator behind a Cade Cunningham, plus it would help the perimeter defense. Cade Cunningham does have a bit of a turnover issue, but again, I think part of that does come into the fact that they just don't have a lot of ball creators outside of him. Actually, how many is he? Because at one point in time, it was like 5 or 6 turnovers a game, I think. I want to see. I didn't even check that on the Basketball Reference. Turnovers is at 4.4 right now. So still, 4.5 turnovers, 4 to 5 turnovers a game by your lead guard isn't great, and that's definitely something he's going to need to work on, because some of them are just kind of dumb turnovers where he's throwing the ball out of bounds. There's just like miscommunication between him and his teammate. So I expect the longer they play together, those kind of turnovers to go down. But some of it also is just getting the ball poked out of his hand. I think, again, adding another guy, like maybe getting Jaden Ivey back next season will help that. Dennis Schroeder going to help that a lot, maybe a little bit. I don't really expect it to be a lot, but Dennis Schroeder could help that by having somebody else have the ball in their hands, getting some type of jump. Like Tobias Harris is a guy that can put the ball on the floor enough to give Kate Cunningham a break on a possession or two. And I expect them to go look for probably, I think they could look for a guard in this year's draft. Again, maybe like a point guard, because I don't think Dennis Schroeder is the answer at all. Marcus Esser's not the answer at all. So maybe like a backup point guard type of thing. Or another wing that can shoot the ball, like score. They have Tim Hardaway Jr., of course. But I think they've drafted these guys like Asar Thompson and Ron Holland these past 2 years, these rangy defending wings. But I think they also need to find guys that can shoot. And again, they did that free agency with Tobias Harris, with Tim Hardaway Jr., really feasibly. I think you need to draft another young guy that has the potential to be a sharpshooter. So I think that's really the missing part from this team. Is one, just they're a young team. They're getting better. JB Bickerstaff is a upgrade from what Monty Williams was. I still don't think JB Bickerstaff is a great coach. You kind of saw that in his time in Cleveland. But I do think he was better than Monty Williams. I think Monty Williams was also just there for a contract because he kind of said he wanted to retire after his Phoenix Suns days. And then they're like, hey, here's $90 million. And he's like, well, shit, I ain't going to turn down $90 million. And I wouldn't do it either. So I understand why he did it. But I think his heart wasn't really in it. I think JB Bickerstaff was an upgrade just along the fact of, like, he wanted to be there. But I'm definitely not sold on him being a top coach in this league. But that's really neither here nor there. You got to jump from Cade Cunningham. You got increased shooting. You got to jump from Dirk, a jump from Isaiah Stewart. I think with a healthy Ivy this season, this team could win a first-round series. Now, this year, I don't know. Because let's say they stick at the 3 seed. That means they're going to New York in the first round. I don't know about you guys. I like the Pistons, but I do not have them beating the Knicks. I'm sorry. Their offense is just insane. Then, if they get lucky enough to jump into the 5 seed, they would play the Pacers. I just think the Pacers have a better team with Tyrese Halliburton, Pascal Siakam. I just think they're a better, well-rounded team. Or somehow they jump into 4-5 and the Pacers fall. They would play the Bucks. Again, Giannis and Dame, I just don't see it happening. I just think this team's not quite ready to win a playoff series. But again, give them one more year, some new added talent, some progression from your young guys. I think this Detroit Pistons team is here for the next 10 years. So this week's fan question comes from Levi. Do you think a low seed could make a run in the playoffs? If I look at the low seeds in the East, I'm going to consider a low seed outside the top 4. So like 5 through 8. That's what I'm going to consider a low seed, right? I feel like that because the top 4 have home field advantage or home court advantage. So that's what I'm going to consider a low seed. If I look at the low seed right now in the East, Bucks, Pistons, Magic, Heat. Let's just assume those guys get out of the play-in. Obviously, the Milwaukee Bucks are going to be an enticing team because you have Giannis, you have a Damian Lillard, you have the superstars, you have a Kyle Kuzma, I guess. But you have like the superstars to kind of do that. And to win a championship in this day and age, you need a top 10 player in the league, most likely. And Giannis is that. He's arguably the best in the league. So I think the Bucks are definitely a team that could see in the East making a run for it. But again, he hasn't been healthy in like 3 years in the playoffs. So you gotta kind of hope he's healthy, and he's been out for a while now. So definitely some worries about that. Now, if you look at the Western Conference, the 5 through 8 is the Rockets, Clippers, Timberwolves, and Mavericks. And I mean, the Mavericks are still a good team. I know they traded Luka, but they got Anthony Davis. But with the injuries to AD, to Daniel Gafford, to Derek Lively, it makes me really worried that they could possibly miss the playoffs entirely with the Warriors and Kings right below them. And like I said, their injury history. So because of that, I'm going to say not the Mavericks. The Warriors have Steph Curry. They get Jimmy Butler, who they've looked pretty good since Jimmy Butler's got there. But I just don't think they have enough outside of that. The Rockets have been really, really bad recently. Last night, I put money on them for like Sengun to get 18 points, 5 assists, and them to beat the Jazz. Well, he got the points, and I went to bed at the end of the third quarter because I'm like, there's no way they lose to the Jazz. I should have cashed out. They lost to the Jazz. I should have cashed out. So honestly, the Western Conference, I don't think the Timberwolves have what it takes. I don't think the Clippers have what it. I mean, you have Kawhi Leonard, obviously, who's a playoff demon. I'll go to Clippers just because I want to give somebody. And a healthy Kawhi Leonard in a playoff run is something we haven't seen since 2019 when they won the championship. So, I mean, James Harden, who's, yeah, I know he's had his playoff struggles, but also he was going to toe-to-toe with that 2017, 2018 Warriors team with Kevin Durant. So, I'll go to Clippers. I appreciate you guys watching today. I'm on the road to 500 subscribers. This past month has been insane for me. The growth has been nuts. And I appreciate each and every single one of you that tune in and watch. Comment what teams you want me to talk about, what teams you want me to reboot on 2K, whatever you want to comment. Please just put it down below, and I'll see you guys later.